Okay, so let us start with today's newspaper. Interesting case happening in Supreme Court. Two benches have taken the same court, and one of the one bench is basically has already issued a contempt notice to the DDA with respect to tree felling case. So again issues in our judiciary. Then games tomorrow as Paris becomes stadium, complaints and hope. You can probably read that with respect to tech and stuff. This is a very important news now. And we will discuss these two news because these are important from our current point of view. Now, tech security and FTA on the table. UK's Lamy, who's also the foreign secretary, has visited India. Now, the US, we have already discussed about the UK politics. The Conservatives were voted out of power for the first time in 14 years, and the Labour Party has come to power. Now, there was an impending FTA that needs to be signed with this party with the UK, and this is what is there in discussion. Now, let me show you the second part. Where is it? Yes. So the India UK the India UK FTA, something early conclusion of India UK agreement is something that is in progress. Now you should, if you are not aware of what FTA is, please read about the free trade agreements. First of all, you need to read about what PTAs are, what are preferential trade agreements, then free trade agreements, then maybe custom unions, monetary union, economic union. This is how this is how the framework of economic cooperation happens. So it starts with PTA, moves on to FTA, then you have something called as customs union, and then monetary union and economic union. But apart from that, you will also hear different types of terms, that you have a comprehensive agreement on trade and services. So something like that, which also is not is not a customs union, but also which is something more than a FTA. So don't be surprised if you find new terms, comprehensive economic partnership agreement, something like that. These are tailored agreements which go a little further than the FTA, but it is not exactly a customs union as well. So they have also launched a technology security initiative. Think of it as something like the collaboration that we have with US for critical and emerging technologies. So ISET is something that we have with them as well. So similarly, we have a technology security initiative that we are having. And what are the threats that we are facing from the technologies also that they are collaborating on. So critical and emerging technologies is what they are discussing. And then deepening relationship of defense and security cooperation in Indo-Pacific and beyond is something that is going to be discussed. So but we are going to read further about the changes in our custom duty, or maybe let me move to that. But before moving to that, there is a meeting of ASEAN foreign ministers, where our honorable foreign affairs minister will also be going. But let's read why why this person is here. And there are certain changes to the customs the custom duty act that we have done. Let's understand that, because then we'll be able to understand this particular news properly. Now, if you see the economy page, India creates legroom to sign UK and EU FTA with Customs Act amendment. Now, let me give you a brief of this. Now, what used to happen is that suppose what happens is, suppose I am UK and I have an FTA with India. So that means any kind of product that I want to sell to India, India will not impose if it's a normal commodity, until unless it is not in the negative list of commodities which is excluded from FTA. There will be no free trade agreement, means that there will be no customs duty that I will impose on these particular commodities. Now, if that is so, what can happen is that there needs to be rules of origin. Now I'll give you an example from this. From this, now see, we already have a free trade agreement with UAE. Now UAE in the last 1 year has exported 60 times, listen to this, 60 times the amount of silver that we imported last year. So if we were importing 1 ton of silver last year, this time we have imported 60 tons of silver. What does that show you? UAE is not a manufacturer of silver. And this import basically shows that what people have done is they're importing this thing. They're importing cheap silver from some other country to UAE and using UAE as a transit hub, and then and then it is coming to India. This is basically circumvention of rules of origin. We are signing a FTA with a particular country, but what happens is that people try to circumvent that through rules of origin. So they can also, what India UK can also have an agreement with China. So what people will do is, or what Chinese manufacturers will do is, they will first export the product to China, and then after exporting the product to China, they will export it to India. The same thing has happened with India Asian this thing as well. If you read this, where this the despite the stringent rule of origin norms, the India ASEAN trade gap has surged to 43 billion from 25 billion in FY22. So despite this is despite the rules of origin. Now what we are doing in the Customs Act, which was introduced in the budget day before yesterday, was that we have simplified this rules of origin. The value addition norms were guided by rules of origin, and we wanted a certificate of rule of origin. But now what we have done is we are also accepting the proof of rule of origin. If you see this, the tax expert explained the amended act now enables acceptance of proof of origin, which is a wider term, and includes certificate of origin as well as self declaration. So it is something like Pooja Khandetkar case. Now I'll explain you how I'm linking it to her. That earlier DOPT was asking you, no, a medical doctor has to certify whether you are from the PH category or not. Now what you are saying is, not only a medical doctor can give you this, but also you can also certify. You are yourself telling the government, no, I am a PH category student and I want this reservation. So this is something that is problematic. This is something that might lead to even more trade deficit, especially with developing countries. See, developed countries have a very good tracking system, and their self certification mode is very handy. But in developing countries, this is a major problem, and India might face a problem because of this. So this is an important development. You should be aware of what is there. Then simultaneously also read, not for high dividends. If we suck out profit, PSU will not be able to invest. Is a very important person, Tuhin Kanta Pandey. He has been the helm of DPAM for quite some time. And what he's arguing in this particular article is that we have moved from away from strategic disinvestment to a broader asset management strategy. And in this sense, what they are saying is that we are not right now disinvesting. We are saying all these companies to basically earn profit, and then invest in yourself, so that to make you to maximize to maximize the value addition of these particular entities. So the idea is the government does not want them to maximize just their dividends. So read about this particular article. It's an interesting article, and it is also something that I will send it to you, because I will refer to this particular article later on when I'll for the economics optional part, when I'll teach you the new approach of public sector, how we are approaching the public sector in a new way in the last few years. Then indexation. Now, since this is a hot debate, please read about what this indexation benefit is on property sale. Now, I'm going to give you a very short summary on this. Now, suppose there is a property that I have. All right. Now, I bought this property in 2010 for 1 crore rupees, and I sold this property in 2024 for 3 crore rupees. So the government is now saying, earlier what the government used to say is that the property that you have bought in 2010 for 1 crore rupees, its notional value would have also increased. So basically, taking inflation inflation into account, you can probably say that the value of that particular asset that you bought in for 1 crore rupees may be somewhere around say 2.5 crore rupees in 2024. And since you have sold the property for say 3 crore rupees, you have made a profit, you have made a long term profit of 50 lakh rupees, and on this 50 lakh rupees you need to pay 20%. So basically, based on all this analysis, I would pay a tax of 10 lakh rupees to the government. This was the case earlier. Now what the government is saying is, the government says that I'm abolishing this indexation. Now I'm only concerned between your sale price minus your actual cost price, not inflated cost price, actual cost price. So it will be now 3 crores minus 1 crore, which is 2 crores, and on 2 crores they are now going to ask for 12.5% instead of the 20% that was asked previously. So now my tax liability increases to 25 lakhs. So this is something that has happened recently, but this is not true for ancestral property, which is before 2001. But this is a major cause of concern which people have raised, and because of this, real estate. People are saying that people will like to participate in the secondary market of real estate and then sell the property within 3 to 5 years so as to book their gains. So read about this particular article. Then let's quickly now numbers up close. Now we have talked about the entire budget. Now this particular thing should not be an issue for you anymore. The article starts with the fact that the fiscal deficit was at a staggering 9.2%. Now we have reduced it to 5.6% according to advance provisional actuals, and then we are further reducing it to 4.9, and then intending it to reduce it to 4.5 by 2025-26. Now apart from that, what we have also talked about yesterday was something called as tax buoyancy. If you remember, we had discussed this term called tax buoyancy. Now that was the percentage change in tax revenue upon percentage change in GDP or percentage change in income. And what we are seeing is this year the budget is expecting the taxes to grow by 10.8% and the nominal GDP to grow by 10.5. So 10.8 upon 10.5 is almost 1, and therefore what we are seeing is that the tax buoyancy is 1, and we are basically saying we are putting this as a lower number. Actually it's around 1.3, 1.4. Therefore next year, just like this year, next year again we will have a higher revenue, and then that higher revenue can be used to basically finance either the revenue expenditures or even to reduce the fiscal deficit even further. Now and within the tax revenues, we see that the direct taxes are growing faster than the indirect taxes, and within the direct taxes, the personal income tax is growing far faster than the corporate taxes. But apart from that, we have also discussed about the non-tax revenues, how the transfer of some RBI and telecommunication services are basically being used. And another thing that we'll talk about in public finance later on is that tax devolution to states stands out to around 32.5% of gross tax collections. Now you might ask, because some of you might have read the fiscal federalism chapter, and you might ask that this according to the 15th Finance Commission should be 41%, and that is where the problem lies, that not all gross collections are part of the consolidated fund of India, because there are a lot of cess and surcharges that the government puts. Then all of this, the capex has been as is around 3.4%, and we are planning to have a decline in both fertilizer and petroleum subsidies overall. So but at the same point of time, it has not given the target for the rolling targets for the fiscal strategy for 2026 and 27 till 2027. But we are saying is that we will try to reduce our fiscal deficit even further. Then justice for Faizan, maybe you can read it, that how police takes part in communal violence, and yeah, how police takes part in communal violence, and this the court has come heavy on Delhi policing for taking part in the hate crime rather than providing a surety to minorities. So maybe an example that you can quote somewhere. Then this 17,500 is kind of a parody article with respect to that. Every time the budget is released, the middle class and the salaried class basically is watching the news to see what is the extra benefit that they are going to get out of the budget. This time around, if you are from the highest tax bracket, by the way, only then you will realize the complete benefit of 17,500 rupees. Otherwise it will be lesser, and again, this is not much of a windfall gain to make any major decisions, whether you want to buy a fridge, TV, air conditioner, or anything else. So but that is the fun part of the budget, which the middle class enjoys. Then a very good critical article on budget's political choices. Now see, budget, you also have to understand that budget is not just an accounting exercise. It's also a political exercise which tells you about what are the priorities of the government, what are the what are the concerns that the government is facing, what are the priorities of the government, what is the political economic thought of the government. So it's not just an economic statement, it's not just an accounting statement, it's also a philosophical statement, how government approaches the entire governance architecture. Now within this, what we see is that there are a number of issues that the government is facing. One of the major issue is the fall in CINE, the consumption, investment, and exports. All these three areas are basically affected. Then private investment we have already talked about, and jobs we have already talked about, that jobs are not available, and there is a lot of unemployment in the market. But apart from that, even with the employed, this section is very important. Maybe for your optional as well, you can take down 2-3 pointers from here, that according to the periodic labor force survey, the real earnings of regular workforce has been declining since 2011-2012. Also the wages on this thing, the wages on agriculture, wages are also stagnant, and the cultivation income has also increased barely 1% in the last 1 year. So this basically shows you that there is a problem, there is a sort of crisis in the rural sector, and that is also kind of spilled over into the urban sector recently, which shows that household savings are decreasing and non-collateralized loans are also increasing. And this was something which was also acknowledged, that agriculture is a major problem. But at the same point of time, if we see the funding of agriculture, there's nothing more that has nothing much has been done. The allocation is almost flat, as it was previously, around 1.53 lakh crore rupees that we are getting in agriculture. But even within that, the new and innovative parts have not been really invested in. So we have not really invested in anything new. We have not invested in natural farming, or we were talking about productivity and resilient agriculture has not seen much. Whatever we are seeing in the regular exercise of PM Kisan and Manrega, we are getting that. So not much has been done there, and what we are now doing is, as I told you yesterday, that after 2019, there was a lot of emphasis that reduce the corporate tax. Once you reduce the corporate tax, the private sector will kick in with its private investment, and once they kick in with their private investment, there will be jobs and the incomes will increase. But that is something that has not happened. They have all booked in profit, and now the government has launched this ELI scheme for creating jobs, 4 crore jobs in the next 5 years, spending 2 lakh crore rupees on that. And one of the ways is that asking them to be part of EPFO. But again, the problem, again, this is a critical analysis of this EPFO thing. Please take a note of that. The EPFO workers have also reduced in the last 1 year, despite several such schemes that have been launched. Now the government is intending to create 16 million more EPFO enrolled jobs this year, with certain cost which the government will bear. But again, if you see the overall cost to the private sector, it will be 94% of each employee's cost will be borne by the private sector. And until unless there is sufficient demand in the market, why will the private sector invest in a new workforce is a major problem. So read about this entire article. It's a good article. If you want to read Lost in Geometry Box, please read that. It gives you a kind of nostalgia of pre-liberalization era. Then I didn't really like the article by Deepak Mishra. There was nothing new in this particular article. I say this type of articles as Chatokar articles. So nothing really new about it. Yes, a good article is Thinning of the Kannada, which gives you a counter view. See, remember we talked about this particular act, Karnataka State Employment of Local Candidates in Industries, Factories and other establishment, which said that 70%, and now it has been stated by the cabinet of Karnataka that 70% of the non-management job and 50% of the management jobs should be given to locals who speak Kannada. And defining Kannada, and anyone who's a Kannada is 15 years staying in Karnataka and who knows how to read and write Kannada. Now this article gives you a different kind of flavor, that now Karnataka has become, and the Bangalore has become the Dubai of India. But at the same point of time, what we are seeing is that people from outside want to come into Karnataka, want to come into the state, be a part of its society, but at the same point of time they consider Kannada to be as an inferior language to their local language. And that has also shifted the preferences of the schools in Karnataka towards more of English and lesser emphasis on Kannada. And this is how you lose relevance to your cultural links. This is one way to lose relevance of your cultural link. Once you homogenize everything in your society to be economic driven rather than culturally driven. So we need to have a fine balance. So this is something that you can also use in your ethics, or maybe in your essay as well. Having a fine balance between a cosmopolitan city, as well as which is also rooted in which is also rooted in culture. So one of the best examples could be say something like Tokyo, or Paris, which is equally cosmopolitan, but at the same point of time people would hardly speak English. People will speak in French there. So they've able to manage this particular conundrum well. But I mean when we talked about India, we have kind of degraded the Indian languages as second grade languages, despite them being very ancient, and these are all classical languages. Also read about the fact that what are classical languages in India. There are, I think, 6 or 7 classical languages, and how do you define a language as a classical antique language. So please read about that. Kannada is one of the classical languages. Then Iron Ready of Venezuela threatens to unseat autocrat. Maybe you want to read this. So also read about what is called as lab grown meat. Now Singapore has opened this up in 2020. Cultivated meat. Read about the technology that goes into cultivated meat, and now it is available at number of places in Singapore as well as US. Then we have read these two articles. Maybe you can read the AI mission with fresh budgetary allocation, and IT ministry to look into procure 500 GPUs. Now let's first talk about mitigation versus adaptation. Now the economic survey has talked about this excessive preoccupation with meeting this 1.5 degree or 2 degree temperature was an impossible pressure on developing countries, and basically it is making them choose something that they are not right now ready to be prepared for. So this is a major issue, and already we are seeing that this threshold is something that we have already crossed. But now the issue is that climate change is here, but how do we now manage this climate change? Now the climate change, the international climate change have not been met. If you see the global stock take of climate change and of the Paris Agreement, most of the targets have not been met, and it is quite inequitable because the developing countries have not borne the share that they should share, because we said that there's something called as equal but differentiated responsibilities. So this is something that we started with when we were talking about Paris Agreement, which says that yes, this is an equal responsibility for all the countries, but it is also differentiated because number of countries have contributed more to this particular problem than the other countries. So this is something that we need to focus on, and we need to focus on a shift towards kind of improving lives of people in developing countries by building resilience among them. So adaptation and resilience are this resilience is extremely important, that yes, climate change is now going to be there. This is no matter what you do, the 1.5 degree barometer will be breached. Now what can you do? How can you be more resilient? In terms of your adaptation, can you have better seeds? Can you have better counter strategies? Or if there are vagaries of the nature, how can you target them? Now one of the ways is basically adaptation and migration, adaptation and mitigation that we need to do. But at the same point of time, as we said that we need to be smart in our strategies as well, because the developed countries have not basically taken their own path. They have not basically complied with the scenarios, or complied with the plans that we had drawn. Now what we need is alternative strategies, building infrastructure which is climate resilient, so not having these huge buildings which are glass facades, because they will require more AC. One of the examples could be the Central Vista this thing, which will be a huge improvement over the current set of buildings in the Central Secretariat. So this could be an example. Then smart cities, we need climate proofing. Then railway stations are being built which should be climate friendly. And then mission life, which basically your behavioral changes and lifestyle changes should be something that reduces your overconsumption. Then the other news is the other major news is with respect to the Supreme Court basically not agreeing on environmental release of these particular seeds, GM seeds. Now you should also read about what is GM technology, what is genetic modified technology, why is it used, and then also read about the fact that there is a body in India called as Genetic Engineering Appraisal Committee, which is the highest body. So which is the highest body, which gives the procedure, which gives you the go ahead of any genetic modification that you do. The first thing that we genetically modified was GM cotton, read about GM cotton. And what was the genetic modification that we did? We introduced an organism, a bacteria organism, which is called as BT, Bacillus thuringiensis. This is what we introduced into cotton. And because of this introduction, whenever the cotton bloom used to happen, there used to be certain insects which used to attract and which used to destroy the cotton ball. Now, because of BT, because of this genetic modification, this particular bollworm did not affect the plant. But at the same point of time, it requires a very high amount of fertilizer, very amount of water, and these seeds are also expensive. So these are other issues that you need to see. And the environmental concerns, the long term environmental concerns of anything which is GM is also there. Then after that, GM mustard was also introduced, and meant for human consumption. And now you have GM mustard, that we are GM mustard that was done. And by the way, this was done by Delhi University. The crops were developed by Delhi University. And again, the idea was to increase the production, increase the fertility, increase the production of mustard. But at the same point of time, just a second. Yeah, at the same point of time, this case was taken to the Supreme Court with respect to the yes or approval given by the GAEC. And the Supreme Court has taken this issue on the face of it, and there is a split decision that has happened in Supreme Court with respect to this particular case, where one justice, Nagar Ratna, has said that. Also, guys, read about something called as uncle judges. Please read about it. This reminds me of uncle judges, because she is also a relative of a Chief Justice of India, or a judge of India. Now, she has said that the test of GAEC committed to conduct did not take place. Instead, GAEC did do a volte-face after Professor Pentel wrote the letter to the ministry. So it is a gross violation of public trust. This thing has not happened. This particular due diligence has not happened. And Justice Kroll has said that the environmental release and the following trials were in line with the principles of scientific temper, and therefore the GAEC's process was independent and reasoned, and it should be allowed. So this is what is happening. Well, that's about it. If you want to read Lingiat's quota demands in Karnataka, you can read that. But that's about it from my side, folks. You can read the sports section, what is happening in the sports sections today. So with this, folks, we end our today's session, and I will budget session. I will try to see if I can upload the budget session. That's why I had put that on. I had put that thing on the D3 group as well. I will try to put it up. And let's see. If otherwise, what I'll do is I'll make a course on my platform and I'll put that video there, and I'll let you know how am I doing it. So with this, let us start the day, and I wish you all the best. Let us meet, for those with economics, let us meet at 2 o'clock, and others we'll meet tomorrow at 5:15, 5:20 maybe, if newspaper comes in early. Thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow.